Welcome to the Hydratight Sweeney Limited Quick Flange Operation video. This video covers the installation, removal and refurbishment of the Quick Flange pipeline connector and is divided into the following sections: General Overview, Connector Overview, Installation Equipment, Pipe Preparation, Quick Flange Preparation, Installation, External Test, Removal, and refurbishment. The Quick Flange connector will be shipped in a wooden crate along with an ANSI 900-pound mating flange. The mating flange bolting, gasket and quality documentation will also be included. The Quick Flange connector is supplied fully assembled. The unique gripping system, based on steel balls, can be seen inside the connector. The balls are held clear of the pipe in the retracted position by the ball cages that can also be seen. The cages are held in position by the locking pins. The twin sealing system is located inboard of the gripping mechanism and has a facility for external testing. On the pre-activated connector, there are gaps between the sealing components. These are maintained by use of shear pins and close when the connector is activated. The environmental seal prevents seawater entering the connector once it is installed. The connector is activated by tensioning the stud bolts. This simultaneously activates the gripping and sealing mechanisms. There are several items of equipment required for a quick flange installation. To install a quick flange, you will need pipe cutting equipment, sea serpent tensioners and harness, hydraulic pump, suitable lifting equipment to interface with the supplied eye bolts, pressure gauge for the external pressure test. All of this is available from Hydratight Sweeney. Equipment will be required to clean the pipe to a reasonable bare metal finish. This is not supplied by Hydratight Sweeney. First of all, the pipe needs to be prepared. Remove the pipe coating to approximately 1.5 times the installation length shown on the specification sheet. Cut the pipe end squarely and chamfer the end to remove any sharp edges. If there are any deep scores in the pipe, cut it back so that good pipe will be used. Remove any weld bead until flush with the pipe over the installation length. Measure the pipe diameter and wall thickness to check it is within the specification shown on the specification sheet. Measuring from the pipe end, mark the installation length onto the pipe. The installation length is shown on the specification sheet. The pipe is now ready for the quick flange to be installed. Before deployment, certain checks need to be made to ensure the installation is as simple as possible. 2 eye bolts are supplied with the quick flange. The lifting points are shown here. Ensure that the locking pins are in place and that the balls are retracted within the cages. The quick flange can be deployed either on its own or with tensioners fitted. Tensioning 50% of the stud bolts is sufficient to close the preset gaps. 100% tensioning will be required to apply the final bolt load. For the purposes of this video, the connector will be deployed with 50% of the tensioning tools fitted. Between the preset gaps, there is an inlet and outlet test port. Prepare for the external pressure test by using one of the plugs and Doughty seals provided to blank off one test port. And fit an open coupling to the other. Sub-C, the open coupling is often fitted to the port on top of the connector for easier access. The quick flange installation can now begin. Slide the connector over the pipe until it locates against the abutment face. Check that the installation mark on the pipe lines up with the end of the connector. If the connector needs to be rotated for alignment with the mating flange, it should be done at this stage. Once satisfied the connector is in the correct position, unscrew and remove the two locking pins. Return the pins to the surface to verify both have been removed. The balls are now in contact with the pipe. The supplied blanking plugs and Doughty seals can be fitted to the two locking pin holes at this stage, or at the end of the installation process. The connector is now in position and ready to be activated. Pressurize the tensioners to begin closing the preset gaps and activating the connector. Continue tensioning the stud bolts until the maximum tensioner pressure is reached. This may involve restroking the tensioners. Connect or assemble the remainder of the tensioners and 100% tension the bolts until the preset gaps have fully closed and the quick flange bolting pressure, as shown on the specification sheet, has been achieved. An external pressure test using the twin sealing system will ensure that the seals have been fully activated and the connector fully installed. It's advisable to check for leakage within the test equipment prior to performing this test. Connect a hydraulic pump to the open coupling with a gauge fitted in line. Pressurize between the two seals to the pipeline test pressure. When the test is complete, remove the coupling and fit a blanking plug with Doughty seal. The quick flange connector is now fully installed and ready to be bolted up to the mating flange. The quick flange connector is fully reusable. The following steps detail the removal of the connector from the pipe, but it's also recommended that Hydratight Sweeney is contacted for further advice. To remove the quick flange from the pipe, a set of split rings is supplied. Additionally, flange spreaders are required and can be hired from Hydratight Sweeney. The first stage of removing a quick flange is to unscrew and remove the environmental seal. Next, use tensioners to slacken off the nuts. As the connector is under load, the tensioners may have to be restroked a few times before the nuts become loose. Remove enough stud bolts to provide room to insert the split rings behind the adapter plate. Use flange spreaders to reinstate the preset gaps and loosen the seals. Place a spacer in each gap. Using suitable equipment, hold the adapter plate slightly off the pipe so it can move easily. Pull back the adapter plate and insert the split rings between the adapter plate and the first cage. Tighten the nuts until the adapter plate closes up as squarely as possible. The nuts can be tightened by hand, using a flogging spanner, or by using tensioners. The adapter plate will push the split rings against the cage, which will lift the gripping balls off the pipe so the connector can be removed. Remove the blanking plugs and replace with the two locking pins that were removed during installation. These will hold the cages in place and the balls in the retracted position. The connector is now ready to be removed from the pipe. If the remaining bolts have been unscrewed from the flanged end, make sure that the flange is supported so it does not fall. Use the main rigging points to pull the connector off the pipe. If the quick flange has been activated, certain items will need to be replaced. The items that will need to be replaced in a quick flange that have been activated are the 2 sets of seals and anti-extrusion rings, and the dowel pins that act as preset gap spacers. The first step is to place the connector in a vertical position, supported under the adapter plate, so that the bolts are raised off the floor. Unscrew the stud bolts and lower them to the floor. Using suitable lifting equipment, lift off the transition piece. Remove the seal and anti-extrusion rings. Next, lift off the twin seal housing and remove the second seal with anti-extrusion rings. Lift up the remaining section so that it separates from the adapter plate. The rings can now be removed and the section lowered again. Retrieve the broken black plastic shear pin pieces from the twin seal housing and seal housing and replace with new ones. Assemble the new anti-extrusion rings and seal into the seal housing, ensuring that the split sections on the rings are at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. The flat side of the anti-extrusion ring lies on the seal face. Replace the twin seal housing, taking care to line up the dowel pins, and assemble the second set of new anti-extrusion rings and seal, but this time ensuring that the split sections on the rings are at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Replace the transition piece assembly. Screw the bolts back into the flanged section and ensure the nuts are hand-tight to slightly preload the connector. Rotate the connector into the horizontal position. Screw on the environmental seal and plate and fit the remaining bolts. The connector is now ready to be reused.